Hey everybody, Jane from Morning Dew Creations. I have this really wild looking vintage Hutch here, and some of the veneer came off, and instead of totally sanding that down, I'm gonna use that surface to my advantage. And I am gonna use this incredible paper. It is 24 by 36. And you can buy this right on my website at morningdewcreations.com. This is the Blue Damask. It's so big I'm hiding from it. And I have two pieces of this. I'm gonna use some in these panels, and then I have cut this one, and I'm gonna use a piece on here, and then I'm going to use this piece just on this insert of the drawer here. So stay tuned and let's get this started. All right, I am going to use this soft gel. There's all kinds of different brands that you can use. Golden, this is Art Basics. Liquitex has some. And this has a really nice open time. And what that means is it doesn't dry super fast, so you have time to work with it. And it's got the consistency of like a yogurt. Check it out. So I'm just gonna put a nice thick coat over this entire thing. And the texture on it is great because it's going to help grab that paper and keep it down. I'm just gonna go around this keyhole because I don't want it to stick to that. Awesome. All right, I have my paper, and I kind of stuck it on there before and scored it a little bit with my fingers, so I know right where I want to place it. So I'm just going to kind of smooth this out on the gel. And what's great about the gel is if you notice that you're having bubbles, you can kind of pull your paper up just gently and press it back down. And I'm going to welcome a few wrinkles in this because it's meant to look like it's vintage. I'm going to put a little bit more of the gel in this corner. And so the wrinkles will just help older. All right, while it's still wet, I'm just going to use this really dull sanding block. And I'm just going to push sand off the edge. See how easy that comes off. Beautiful, isn't it? Holy cow. It's so pretty. I'm just gonna take this sandpaper really lightly, and this is worn out. This started as a medium grit. It's probably extra, extra fine now. Just kind of using it to smooth it out. And finally, I have a little gel on the outside, or on the brush, I should say, and I'm gonna paint over this outside coming from the middle out. Make sure you have a really good grip on your edges. And once this is saturated, you can take your finger and smooth out, but your finger needs to be wet too. Smooth out any additional bubbles that you don't like, that you don't want to keep. Sometimes they're big and sometimes they're not. Okay, around the keyhole here, I am just going to use my fingernail, and then I'm going to press those edges down. Go all the way around it. And then you can just kind of peel that off. I put a little bit of the gel on my finger. Just, if your finger isn't wet and well saturated and you're rubbing the bubbles out, you can tear the paper. Now this is pretty strong paper. See, I just did it right there. Look at that, I can just fix it. So just be, you know, pretty careful. When the paper's wet, it tears, but if your finger is wet too, you can really help to avoid that. And so I just kind of switch back and forth beneath the brush and between the brush and my finger. If you find that there is a bubble in here after it dries, a big bubble, you can put a piece of parchment paper on top of it and then iron it with a hot iron on its hottest setting, and it will reactivate your medium, and then you can press it down. And that doesn't happen all the time, but it certainly can happen. And so that's just a trick after it's dry to get the bubbles out. All right, I'm measuring for my drawer. I'm not a math person, so I just kind of eye it out. Looking at balance here, kind of like this is too dark here, so kind of liking this. You want to just do what looks good for you, and remember this isn't all going to show either, so put these two in the middle. All right, I think I'm going to go with this. Okay, I'm just going to score it here with my finger. And that way I'll be able to cut it easier. Okay, so now I'm getting it to fit inside here. And so I'm using a fingernail and just pressing at the very edges. That can be flat there. And then I can cut again and it should fit perfect. All right, it fits pretty good. I am going to get my gel and my brush. Now you'll notice here the veneer is coming up a little bit, but it's really, really still stuck to it. So this paper is going to hide that. Make sure you get your corners really well, all of your edges really well. Can you see this little edge here? That's where the veneer is coming up. I'm just going to take my sandpaper and give that a little swish, little sand here. So I'm already starting the distressing process. And then I can just take the sandpaper itself and press the paper down. Smash it all in there. Coat, put it on top. And this is just protecting your paper. You're gonna have a whole lot of top coat on this in the end. Because you want this to last, it's gonna be super pretty. So I try to get as much protection on it as I can. All right, that's looking pretty cool so far. I can't wait to get the paint on. I'm gonna do these two panels and then I'm gonna let this dry overnight. Okay, so because I've got this big flower down here, I don't want to put it up here again because it's too much. That's too much repetition. So I'm only going to use this half of the paper. And let's see, I think I'm just going to cut it where it has like that darker line. And this is what's going to show up here. Okay, so I just cut that in half. This is kind of how I'm going to put it on. I'm going to start by scoring it around the edges so I can get a better cut and a better, easier surface to work with. And then I'm gonna get my gel and put it on. All right, this is a rough cutout. Don't worry if it's perfect, okay? Because I'm gonna be adding paint and maybe glaze, maybe waxes. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna finish it yet. But don't worry if it's not perfect. You can cover that up. I scored it with my fingernail to get that inner edge, and I'm just going to cut that with my scissors, and I'm gonna put it on. All right, here I go with the gel. This has a lot of curves, so just make sure that you're covering it all. Getting those edges, getting those corners. I'm loving this. I'm just gonna do the other panel. I'm gonna let this dry overnight, and I'm gonna come back tomorrow and sand off some of these little edges. May be able to just cut it with my fingernail instead of sanding it, but we'll see what happens. And I'm gonna bring my iron just in case.